Good morning and welcome to the new episode of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. Indian newspapers are reporting a spate of targeted killing in Kashmir. And this targeted killing is necessarily evoking reaction, and there calls for immediate neutralization of culprits and deterrent punishment to the supporters. But then this fear psychosis that's being created needs to be addressed appropriately. Just going into a panic mode is not going to help. And this is not the first time it is happening. This spate of targeted killing in Kashmir, especially the minorities, has triggered a political charged debate in India. Unfortunately, despite all the heat, the commentary remains largely untouched by the awareness of facts, or rather the lack of awareness, of the trajectory of terrorism over time. And it has always happened, whether it was past or now, that when a major incident or a spate of lesser incidents occur, echoes the absurd claim that the situation in Kashmir is worse than it was in the 90s when the mass exodus after killing of the Kashmiri Pandits was there. And some of the most febrile living imagination who are divorced from reality are advising the government to get the army to initiate the unending duels. And these unending duels would be with the Pakistan army on line of control. These people forget, and that is the biggest problem of a populist regime. They forget the reality that the decades of exchange of artillery and small arm fire did nothing to push us any closer to the solution. It has remained as distant as it was in 1948. Indeed, the incidents of terrorist violence have substantially contained since the ceasefire on the border. Look at the number of incidents and look at the quantum of the killing. It's much lesser today than it was since the firing was taking place every day. And it is highly worrisome. I'm more worried about that situation is that in Jammu and Kashmir, because of the targeted killing of the Hindus, and the police officials are reminding us of the period of 1989-90. That was an unfortunate time. And again, unfortunately, due to the fear factor, a number of people belonging to the minorities have either migrated or are the process of leaving Kashmir Valley. And that's the worst thing that can happen in any country when a large segment of population does not feel safe and leave their hearth and home. And this has happened in the 90s, we remember that. And this is a highly negative development which is planned by the adversaries, both internal and external, of India. It's a long-term design to change the demography of the region. And let me tell you, these targeted killings are with a purpose. They are the clear indications that some political leaders are very happily trying to exploit the situation for garnering the vote bank. And how do they do that? They blame the removal of Article 370 for this situation and also the inept handling of the situation by the current government. And both these accusations are useless, baseless, have no loci standi. The, the situation that exists today needs to be clearly understood by our citizens, Indian citizens, particularly by the Hindu Pandits in the Kashmir Valley who are under attack. They are the first victims. So they have to understand the position very clearly. And these are the various parameters everybody should be clear about. First, this targeted killing has nothing to do with the revocation of Article 370. It happened in a massive manner in 1890 when Article 370 was very much alive, operating. Secondly, the objective is to change the demographic composition of the region in favor of the majority. They want to keep it as a Muslim majority area. And any increase in Hindu population or Sikh population is not welcome. Thirdly, this plan has been hatched by the Pakistan establishment and the purpose to achieve the unfinished agenda of acquiring remaining parts of Jammu and Kashmir. Create dissension, create disorder, create lawlessness, change the demography, and then those people, which is not correct. Let me tell you, the Muslims of India are as patriotic as any other nation. The first person to die when Pakistan attacked Kashmir in 1948 was the Muslim Hamid, who got the Paramveer Chakra for that. They have been on the forefront of fighting for their country. And those people who blame the Muslims for being unpatriotic are absolutely wrong. But nobody can deny that Pakistan also is working under that illusion that if they create a Muslim majority area, the people would be with them. Maybe some people would be who are their henchmen, but not the majority. Anyway, so that is a third parameter. And crucially, there's a Chinese support for this. Now, this is not only Pakistan wants to do it. China is very indirectly, very obliquely supporting it because it hopes to keep the Indian forces away from LAC, line of actual control, in Ladakh and other parts of the north. Fourthly, over the periods, Pakistan ISI has created sleeper cells in the region to provide shelter and assistance to the terrorists operating in at the behest of ISI. And even one of the police officers, who happened not to be Muslim but a Sikh, was found to be a supporter of these cells. Actually, a police officer belonging to Sikh religion was in fact custodian of the terrorists coming and was helping them escort in the police vehicles. So there's a fourth problem. The fifth thing to be understood without any doubt is that some local political leaders are clearly operating as the overgrown supporters of the terrorists and the purpose to garner their supports in the next election. Absolutely selfish interest, but it is there, you can't deny. Sixthly, the modus operandi of the adversaries includes elimination of Hindus. That includes migrants from other states, not only Hindus. If they're Tamilians, if they're Telugu, if they're Maharashtrians, if they're Bengalis, they have to go according to these votaries of Kashmirians. Now, this takes place along with the efforts to break their will to stay in Jammu and Kashmir. So, creative fear psychosis. And this is what we call in intelligence services influence operations. Influence, impact people in such a way that they develop a fear which keeps them awake at night. Then how to do it? Verbal threats, graffiti on the walls, they are quite common. And both the targeting killing and influence operations combine together to achieve the predetermined objective of changing the demographic pattern of the region. So what we are witnessing in Kashmir today is very clearly a proxy war being fought by Pakistan. The use of the terrorists has always been there. In 1948, it was the Pakistan Army which provided all the infrastructure support and even the soldiers dressed as Kabuli tribesmen and invaded Kashmir. And then the army came in. So the use of the terrorists provides a cover to the Pakistan army for its deniability. It can always say, no, they are outsiders, we don't know them. So this is non-involvement officially, and unofficially you are doing everything. They always have a possibility of denial. So this is a case of external threat with internal involvement, and it is basically, if you look at the Chandra's four categories of threats to a nation, this is a separate category. Use of traitors as a pause to break the will of the people, and that's breaking the will of the people. So it has to be treated as such and nothing else. You have to forget many things in such a level, and you have to grapple with the situation. You don't have to be pussyfooted. It must be understood that this is not a case of insurgency. And when the political leaders say we should win the hearts, and the editorial says population must be conquered with love, they are talking nonsense. Let's not deny it's not insurgency, it's treachery. It is waging a war, both overt and covert. And the culprits are externally motivated and trained. In fact, there is an unofficial army of a rogue nation. So it should be declared as a war on that, and the people who are there should be treated as war criminals. Now, Pakistan today is in a position to maintain deniability because Afghanistan is under the control of Taliban. The recent UN report, you might have seen, has revealed how the number of Pak-based terrorist outfits have grown since August 2021. And this growth, documented by UNO, shows that the Pakistan-based terrorists are proliferating. And the Afghan Taliban are supporting their JME 3 training camps in Nangarhar, which is in Kashmir. There are 3 camps, and they are under Afghan Taliban, and Afghan Taliban are literally opening Lashkar-e-Taiba terrorists under training in that country. And that is something we have to take care of. And then don't forget, they have openly declared that Kashmir is in their focus. A leader of the then ruling PTI, when Imran was the Prime Minister, Neelam Irshad Sheikh, I saw him myself on the TV. He said, the Taliban are saying that they are with us and they'll help us in Kashmir. So Afghanistan Taliban and Pakistan are joining hands to what they call liberate Kashmir, in other words, to invade Kashmir. And the Taliban U-turn in Kashmir reflect the extent of the Pakistan Army's hold on that. These groups have close links not only with the Haqqani network, but also the fearsome outfit of Islamic State, Kashmir. Al-Qaeda is also supporting and instigating its India-specific arm, the Al-Qaeda in the Indian subcontinent. And they are taking more interest in the Kashmir affairs. So these facts have to be considered, and they reveal the deadly nature of that real threat. It's to be countered at each level. Each threat, actually, if I was to do it, I will have 6 task forces. For each task, that task force would do the job. But essentially, these steps are required. First, send a stern message to the perpetrators of the crime that their immediate neutralization is a must. You have to declare it a war state and shoot at sight. Shoot to kill should be there. Infiltrators must be neutralized on the border itself and as soon as possible. The intelligence agencies, along with the designated security forces, should ensure success in such operations. And the preemptive operations are must. They must be taken on priority. What it would do? First, it will create terror in the minds of those people that there would not be long drawn out cases or jail terms, and maybe one day they'll again stage possibly a coup or hijack an airplane and get the people received. No, they're gone. So this will instill confidence among the Hindu Pandits and people from other different states. So it will have two focuses. So one, it will demoralize the terrorists, and second, it will create confidence in the persecuted people. Secondly, the supporters need to be given deterrent punishment, as I said. So you're killing the actual person, and the supporters get such a punishment that you cannot forget. And there's no harm in destroying and confiscating their properties, like UP has done. At the same time, special courts should be established. You should hear only those cases, and of course, there should be justice, and the cases must be decided within days, not weeks. The political leaders who also try to express the situation should be placed in the category of supporters and punished. Thirdly, minorities should be kept in special zones with adequate security arrangement. And I think Home Minister has already taken the appropriate approach in this regard, and they have created 8 such zones in the valley. So they should be provided accommodation to all the migrant officials which is required. Then fourthly, the last several years we have seen the number of minorities has significantly declined. So demography is changing. But now give the minorities safe zones so that they are not further depleted. Then the fear psychosis has to be neutralized and use a systemic use of public communication, different channels. And they should be specifically designed. As a matter of fact, let's not forget that the influence operations are more devastating than the physical intrusions, like that of Kargil. And so the influence operation must have a counter influence operation. And lastly, the communal situation in the country must be kept under control. And I here appreciate, I am not in favor of RSS, let me be very frank. When RSS chief said that other religious issues should not be taken up and the currency should be amicably solved through the negotiations, this is an ideal approach. It must be pushed up further. So these multi-pronged attack would go a long way in creating a proper milieu, a proper atmosphere for the safety of the country and protecting the minorities so that the nefarious interest of the enemy nation meet their doom. And the sooner the government starts acting in this way, the better it would be for the Indians and for India. Let's forget Hindus, Muslims. They are Indians. Treat them as such. And if they're treacherous, treat them as traitors, as criminals, for whom there can be no mercy. Thank you.